We are back, Sports Talk, here on a Monday night. Phil Kornblut, Kevin McCrary, Professor Tom Hayes, Jar March, Jared Rogers Martin, and Carson Mason, all with you tonight. 800-956-7266 is the number. Back to calls in a moment. In case you haven't heard, USC Georgia is set for a 7:30 kickoff a week from Saturday. Gamecocks finally get a home game under the lights. A little surprised after both teams lost this. That might end up as a noon game, but they're going to put Auburn at Mississippi State at noon that day, and South Carolina and Georgia will go at 7:30 on the SEC networks. The FCS poll this week, and it's North Dakota State 1, followed by Sammy Houston, UT Chattanooga, Jacksonville State, and Eastern Washington. Charleston Southern tied for 8th with Western Illinois. The Citadel is at number 10 this week, and Coastal Carolina is this the coaches poll?
Yeah, they're not in the
okay, they're not in the coaches poll. They are in the writers poll. I think they were 14, I think I saw.
Yes, they moved up 3 spots.
Yeah.
After hammering Furman.
Florida AD tomorrow going to name Mississippi State Scott Strickland as their new AD. At LSU, besides firing Les Miles, their starting defensive tackle Devon Godshaw, arrested this morning, charged with domestic abuse, battery, child endangerment, false imprisonments. He'd started all 4 games this season. What else? College football odds from Bovada. Alabama now 3-1 to win the championship. Ohio State 4-1. Clemson has moved up from 7-1 to 11-2. And Louisville's 11-2. Okay? It's going to be a heck of a ball game.
That should be a tremendous.
Going to be a heck of a ball game. Big South Player of the Week on offense. Co-Player of the Week is Charleston Southern running back Mike Holloway. All right, 800-956-7266. Finding a bit of a head cold here, so that's my one head cold of the year. Ended up somewhere in a horse farm in Lexington. I think I was riding.
Shouldn't get so close to the horse.
Daughter. That's not right. I was
careful.
This is not going to end well.
This is riding the offspring of Secretariat. Yeah, that's what I was doing.
Right. I should have gone with Barbaro.
Yeah, I knew you were going to go there with Barbaro.
I mean, you got to get with a more
overrated.
All right, back to the phones we go, and it is going to be. Oh, it's still Hank. All right, Hank, we'll let you finish up what you were saying. Go right ahead.
Yeah, I was just saying. You did that study a couple of years ago when you were trying to. You were talking about the star system. And I can't remember what team you were talking about, but you reminded when you were reading it, it said these guys were could be projected to be contributors. If they were 5-star, they were supposed to be a starter. Something 4-stars, there was expected to be a significant contributor by their junior year. And, I think being realistic, K-Mac talked about all summer about how many freshmen you were trotting out there on offense. And that's just an issue. So I understand people jumping on McElwain and all these because, Connor Shaw got to play in that Auburn game his freshman year and a couple of spot duties. Then his sophomore year, he started that first game against East Carolina where we went down 17-0, and everybody wanted him on the bench run out of town. Mm-hmm. And then look what he turned into. Whereas you're looking at McElwain and the Dawkins and all those guys that were out there playing the other, and a lot of these guys were on high school football fields last year. So
exactly.
I just think that
yeah, Shaw had guys around him that were pretty good. Yeah, I mean, that helped a lot. And he does make a good point. Connor Shaw, they lost at Tennessee and he was injured a little bit, but Spurrier started Dylan Thompson and even said before the game, well, it's time to give Dylan a chance. Basically, he used the injury tweak as an excuse to bench Shaw and go with Dylan Thompson. And there were Gamecock fans that were applauding that move until Shaw came off the bench and led them to the win. And at that point, they realized, okay, Connor Shaw he should be our guy, and he was. So that's how that went down.
Here's the actual definition by rivals of their star system.
They have a definition up for it?
Yeah, they break it down. A 5-star prospect is considered to be one of the nation's top 30 players, 25 to 30.
Okay.
4-star, you're considered to be top 250 to 300.
Okay.
in the country. 3-star means you're a top 750 player. 2-star means you're a mid-major. 1-star means you shouldn't even be playing football. That's my definition of their 1-star. Just means he's not ranked. So, South Carolina had a bunch of those players considered to be in the top 250 or so in the country.
So where would Hunter
hadn't
Renfro
played
be?
that way. Hunter Renfro would probably be a 1-star because he was a walk-on.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Wofford wanted him as an option quarterback. He could play where his dad played, but he had bigger things in mind, and he's proven.
As they say, you can't measure what's in the chest.
The chest. Has Les Miles doesn't have the chest anymore for LSU, huh? All right.
He was the hat. The chest was Chuck Amato.
Let's no, he was talking. It was the chest, but Les Miles was the one saying that back then had the chest to play for LSU. All right, let's go back to the phone calls. Steve in where? North Ashley. In North Ashley. Stephen.
Is that near West Ashley?
Okay, Stephen, how are you?
I'd say West Ashley, but yeah, you got it. But I just had a question. I looked at the lines today, the early lines of the week, and I was really interested. I didn't think that Clemson, I'm a dire Clemson fan, so being that we won, I think 18 in a row at home, I wasn't surprised to see them a home favorite. But I know most of the experts are right in the hot hand, it seems like, with Louisville. So, I know you're in accordance, you're a Clemson fan too. So I'm interested to know.
Go Tigers.
I want you. Yeah. So I want you to.
No, you
know,
really think? Don't you? You really think I'm a Clemson fan?
I thought you were.
Okay, good. No, yeah. I just want to make sure that we're on the same page.
Yeah.
No, he's saying that because you said they would never lose another game. That's what you're talking about, right?
That's right.
Well, and
I am on record as saying
and he's a
never
huge
lose
Iptay contributor. And
another game.
He claps after every Dabo Swinney press conference.
So go ahead,
well,
Steve.
I like what you think.
Don't let them get in the way.
I want you to tell me on why you think that Clemson will win this weekend. Because, I definitely think they can. And from last year on the road, and obviously he's a much better player this year, and they're a better overall team. But still, they were still able to beat him last year on the road. So I have full confidence they can do it. Yeah. But I just want to know what you think that they're going to need to do to slow them down and to win that game.
All right, thank you. Well, keep in mind, 2 years ago, Louisville had a chance to beat Clemson at the very end. Remember, they got down inside the 5-yard line and they botched it. They had, used up their timeouts or did something funky with their timeouts and really just blew it when they had a chance to pull that game out. Yeah, Louisville has given Clemson fits. They match up well athletically. Keep knocking over my cup. They match up well athletically with the Tigers from a speed standpoint, pretty much across the board. Why will Clemson win? Because I think that Clemson's defense, based on what I saw this past Thursday night in Atlanta, will be well prepared and they're well skilled. They run extremely well. I think Venables will have a plan to, have his guys in position to contain Jackson.
Not funnel him into the middle.
Exactly. Not let him get to the outside. But if you try and run, I think if you try and run wide on Clemson, you're playing right into their hands because they're so fast.
Yeah.
Run wide's not gonna bother them. Where Georgia Tech had what little success they had in the second half was right up the middle, hitting them on straight ahead running plays. They were able to open up some creases there. You run wide and you're doomed. And then offensively, Clemson's they're starting to get together now.
They
you see it.
Switch. They found the switch.
Well, maybe so. In the second half, you wouldn't say that, but I think maybe they got a little conservative.
Yeah, they did.
But Deshaun Watson, here he is. This is the big spotlight. It's the showdown. It's kind of a Heisman thing too. Who's on the cover of Sports Illustrated this week?
Arnie Palmer.
No, that's next week.
Oh,
Lamar Jackson.
Oh,
the one that just came out.
The kiss of death.
Yeah, he's on the cover of Sports Illustrated.
That kind of went away. Watson's been on there a bunch.
Yeah. So, I think he's going to have a great game. Ray McLeod gives them another huge weapon. Yeah, I like Clemson at home to continue to win. Be right back. Okay, we're back at Sports Talk, presented by South Carolina soybean farmers and their checkoff. Learn more at scsoybeans.org. Pork, powered by soy. Today, the Shrine Bowl rosters were announced for South Carolina and North Carolina. 11 USC commitments are on the rosters between the two teams. None for Clemson at this particular time. The Tigers could add perhaps one down the road in the linebacker from North Carolina, Foster, who they were in really good shape with, Justin Foster. Here is the South Carolina Shrine Bowl roster, and David Shelton will give us his take coming up in the next hour. Wide receiver Shi Smith, Union County. Defensive back Tansy Richardson of South Aiken. Quarterback Jackson Williamson of Westside. Athlete Darius Douglas of Berkeley. Receiver Austin Connor of Dutch Fork. Defensive back Lummy Young of Westside. Receiver Ortre Smith of Wando. Quarterback Gage Maloney of Northwestern. Defensive back Devondre Tank Robinson of Lake Marion. Running back Malik Brooks of Saluda. Receiver Bryce Singleton of Hilton Head. Linebacker Damani Staley of Ridgeview. Athlete Cameron Bent of Bluffton. Running back Jerry Howard of Northwestern. Defensive back Dwayne Nichols of Lakeview. Defensive back Devonta Porter of Latta, home of champions. Defensive back Kerryon Richardson of Airport. Linebacker DeAndre Peterson of Fort Dorchester. Linebacker Kendrick Hicks of Rock Hill. Defensive back Kendarius Frederick of South Point. Linebacker Sean Valley. Defensive back Aaron Watson of Burns. Linebacker DeMarco Jackson of Broome. Defensive lineman Jermaine McDaniel of Dillon. Defensive lineman Brad Johnson of Pendleton. Defensive lineman Jalen Walker of Lawrence. Linebacker Bryson Cooper of South Point. Offensive lineman Grady Thomas of Spartanburg. Linebacker, long snapper Logan Carpenter of Hartsville. Offensive lineman George Crosby, Colleton County. Noah Hannon of Greer. Chad Gardner, Boiling Springs. Summy Carley of Lawrence. Marcus McKeithen of Barnwell. J.T. Melton of Dillon. Malik Sumfort. Tight end Will Register of Chapin. Hilton Head. Punter Presley Harvin of Sumter. Receiver Keith Pearson of Woodruff. Athlete Cameron Butler of Ridgeview. Kicker Dawson Hennis of River Bluff. Defensive lineman Devon Bowen of Woodmont. And defensive lineman Octavius of Brooklyn. The Gamecock commitments from the South Carolina team would be Devon Bowen, Will Register, Summy Carley. Also from the South Carolina team, the Gamecocks have commitments from Damani Staley, Ortre Smith, and from Shi Smith. Don't think I've missed anybody there. Off the North Carolina team, USC has commitments from defensive back Jalen Dickerson, from linebacker Sherrod Green, and from offensive linemen, the teammates from Charlotte, TJ Moore and Eric Douglas. And they're still heavily involved in recruiting a member of the North Carolina team, defensive lineman Matthew Butler. And as I mentioned, Clemson strongly involved with Justin Foster, linebacker, on that North Carolina team. And who knows who will pop up during practice, but, you know, really coaches can't be there for practice. So the form art of recruiting Shrine Bowlers at practice is passé now. Well, I can remember the good old days when they used to be in Charlotte at the old Holiday Inn. And in particular, Danny Ford and the Clemson staff would set up shop for a week. This is when the rules were much more lenient. And I think I can tell this story now that because of their connections, I won't say who put this together, but they were able, in many cases, if they already had players committed on one of the Shrine Bowl teams to them, which obviously they did, they would, shall we say, help suggest the arrangements of roommates to make sure that their committed players got in with some players that they were recruiting. It paid off because they would go in there and they would just dominate the Shrine Bowl teams from a recruiting standpoint. And now you see, I mean, this is obviously a blue flag for South Carolina in recruiting, the fact that of the 88 players selected between the two states, 11, that's an eighth, right, bro? 11 are committed to USC, and Clemson has 0. I think that's probably going to change because, I mean, Justin Foster seems pretty strong on Clemson right now.
What did you say, 88-11? That's about 12.5%.
Yeah, or 1/8, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Something like that.
I can't do percentages, but I can do eighths. But anyway, my point is, now, does this send up a red flag to Clemson?
No.
Probably not. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, well, yes and no. Yes, they are recruiting like gangbusters in Georgia and Florida and other places. But if you don't protect your backyard, all of a sudden you leave that door cracked, and you let a hungman like Muschamp and Bentley and those guys who are recruiting their tails off, and they're getting, apparently, allegedly, you don't know, but it looks like they're getting good players in this class. Sometimes you have to protect your back door a little bit at the expense of somebody who might be a little better, a smidgen better outside the state, maybe. I mean, let's face it, Clemson blew it with Ortre Smith. They would have had Ortre Smith probably hands down.
Maybe there's no room at the end.
Well, can you have enough? You know, I mean, if I'm Clemson right now, if I'm running Clemson's offense, I forget the running game. Wayne Gallman, have a nice day. I'm getting that's window dressing because I'm getting the ball in space to one of those speedsters and one of those athletes on the flanks.
Gallman's gonna win some games for you. Let me tell you.
Gallman, who was just the throw-in, he was supposed to be the guy they signed just to get Robert Kimdichie. He turned out okay, didn't he?
He is a good player.
Yes.
But, I mean, they're not running the ball well. Clemson isn't running the ball well.
They're not running.
And I don't think they're real happy with their offense.
Their offense went in. I mean, they looked like they were going to blow the doors off of Georgia Tech, and then they just went south in the second half of that game, and I think it kind of took away some of the good feel. They still look like they're just like a fraction off of being really, really good. And I do think that it's coming around, and when it comes around, it's going to be dangerous. But it better come around this week. They better play their best game of the season, or it could be trouble. Now, Louisville hasn't faced anything quite like Clemson to this point. Now, Florida State at home was a test, but Clemson at night,
right?
That's a whole nother ball game.
Well, and you have to wonder about Florida State now. I mean, I know they ran up, 900 yards on South Florida or whatever the case may be, but they gave up a bunch.
Yes.
So they've given up 60-something points to Louisville. Would they give up to South Florida? 20? No, was it
20?
I know it was a bunch of yards. No, they gave up a bunch of yards and were trailing. They were trailing early.
And of course, that specter now hangs over them again. Jimbo is open. What do you think?
Yeah.
So there's another.
They lose 2 more games.
If you're Jimbo, though, seriously, why would you do that? I mean, you're making a ton of money. How much more is LSU going to pay you than Florida State?
Especially going to that college.
And you realize, too, at Florida State, you're going to walk away from a wonderful talent like DeAndre Francois. You're going to leave that talent behind to go there where there isn't a quarterback?
He'll transfer.
I mean, is LSU a better job than Florida State? I mean, that's what I don't understand.
No, right.
I mean, I know he has ties there, but
no, not any
he's
job.
Got ties at Florida State.
Any job that has a lot of money attached to it, and you in the SEC West, and it ain't Alabama, ain't a good job.
Why would
he
he
want to win?
Yeah, he's got a pretty good setup there at Florida State.
That's a
I don't
job.
know why.
And look at the West.
Unless there's some kind of
That's a
personal
job
thing. He
for
doesn't like
Tom
the AD.
Herman.
Look at the West. Yeah, look at the West. I mean, Alabama's not going anywhere. A&M has rebounded for the time being. He's probably going to solidify himself.
If he gets another quarterback, because this is a renter quarterback.
Right. Well, of course, they lost a couple of quarterbacks because of what that assistant coach did. But Ole Miss is probably not going to go anywhere. They got a great young quarterback waiting in the wings. So, I mean, if you just stay put where you are, you only have to deal with Clemson and occasionally Florida and Louisville.
Yes.
A lot easier getting to the CFP that way, I would think. Another big hour coming up, and we'll be back.
Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
We are back at Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network, enjoying a Monday night with you. Glad you're with us. Don't forget, if you ever lose us over the airwaves, you can stay with us a variety of ways. We have the video feed of the show and the audio feed of the show on the website, SportsTalkSC.com, and we have stations streaming on iHeartRadio and the TuneIn app. So make sure you find out where to go to find us. If you ever lose us for whatever reason over the airwaves and you want to stay with us, you can do so. All right, we got a lot of stuff coming up. Try and squeeze in a few more phone calls, too, as we move forward. David Shelton in a little while to talk about the Shrine Bowl and this past Friday night in high school football. Mick Mixon, the voice of the Panthers, on a disappointing loss at home to Minnesota yesterday. But right now, here on Sports Talk, it's time for what we like to call the good, the bad, and the ugly. All right, who wants to start?
I'll start.
All right, Pro wants to lead off. The good, the bad, and the ugh.
I will take this away from K-Mac for the weekend. The good. Every Dodger batter who came up to the plate for the first time yesterday gave a wave to the broadcast booth.
Very touching.
They
did a great job.
Oh, that whole weekend. And what a poetic ending.
Yeah.
Yes.
Walk-off homer.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
The bad. Nick Saban leaves you. The Mad Hatter comes in, gives you a national championship, 2 SEC titles, and you fire the man unceremoniously in the middle of the year after, only 3 games. The bad and the ugly.
Which one was that? That was the
bad.
That was the bad.
The ugly was Hayden Hurst trying to hurdle the 6'3" cornerback.
He thought he was Edwin Moses
and slammed to the ground.
He got slammed to the ground.
He's an athlete. Athletes think they can do big things.
Yeah.
All right, I'll go. My good, from what I saw over the weekend, going back to Thursday, Brent Venables' game plan against Georgia Tech. Fantastic. Dialed up, executed. Phenomenal job. That's my good. My bad, the loss of Arnold Palmer and the loss of Jose Fernandez. Especially for me, Palmer, because, growing up in the 60s, he was the man. And to me, he was bigger than golf. He's like Muhammad Ali. We've had a bad year for losing sports icons. Big people.
All kinds of icons, not just sports.
And he's the reason I use Pennzoil.
Yeah.
He's the reason why I drink Arnold Palmer's.
Yeah. And the ugly, of course, to follow up on what you said, mine's the ugly. And that is, come on, you universities, you colleges who fire coaches at midseason, especially coaches that are winning 77% of their games. He's only had 34 losses in his time at LSU. I hope you go the way of Tennessee after they fire Philip Fulmer, which means you're going to go away for many years before you'll be heard from again.
Yeah. But they couldn't keep him around because if he turned it around, then they'd be stuck again. So they're firing him in case he won a few big games and everybody wanted to keep him around, which is what happened last year. I was out of the fold most of the weekend. So, I could do my good, bad, like the good Splash Mountain at Disney World with my 5-year-old. No. The good for me, though, mine will be quick. Clemson and Louisville taking care of business to set up a top 5 matchup in Death Valley this weekend. My bad. Going back and watching USC's offense, I know they're young and inexperienced. That was an awful Kentucky defense that looked like the '84 Bears most of that game. The offensive line play, very bad for USC. And the ugly, tying in, this is I'm going to keep beating this drum. If you have an offense performing like that, you should at least roll out your offensive coordinator to explain it. Will Muschamp doesn't do offense. He's admitted he's never called an offensive play. Well, how about get the guy that does out there so we can figure out what the hell's going on? I mean, there's legitimate reasons. I don't think that you guys don't know how to coach, but people deserve answers when you perform like that. You're bringing out your senior offensive lineman. Your offensive coordinator can come out in the post game and answer a few questions as well.
That's a good point. That's a good point. All right, there you go. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Now, I hope you had a chance over the weekend, if you had something to say from something that you saw over the weekend. I hope you had a chance to call our What the Phone line. WTF, What the Phone line. Many of you did. And, of course, we cleaned up what we could to make it airable. So let's go to the first one here off the What the Phone line, Jared.
I think our local high school team could have played better against Kentucky tonight. The defense was sorry. T-Rob needs to go back and teach how to tackle.
Yeah, they Kentucky they were very, very clear about what they were going to do, and that was run the football. And South Carolina had some poor tackling once again. That haunted them. They were overwhelmed by Boom Williams again.
Well, at least it wasn't JoJo Kemp.
Well, if he had played more, he would have gotten his. 3 years in a row, Kentucky's won for the first time ever in this. The fewest number of yards they've rushed for in those 3 wins, 207. They've had at least a 100-yard rusher in each of those games.
I promise you they do practice tackling.
Yeah, but then again, if you're South Carolina and you're as way they've been running up points, and you give up only 17 points, that ought to be enough to win.
Well, yeah,
Kentucky.
That's true. But that's what makes this a hard one to explain. Yes, you're correct. But no, they couldn't stop them really in the second half because Kentucky controlled the ball. They scored 14. They had 2 long drives in the second half that resulted in touchdowns. South Carolina
almost like they were on the field the entire game.
Let them out of the whole third and was it 3rd and 26, 3rd and very long from deep in Kentucky territory. They let them complete a pass for a first down. That's what led to the touchdown that put them ahead. USC kicked the field goal, and then Kentucky scored again to go back up.
But then again, you had that punt return called back on clips that were nowhere near.
Yeah, but he said Muschamp said it was clear. Mm-hmm. He said that was clear, and also the pass interference call.
Oh, I'm not talking about it wasn't clear, but it was a way.
We're never going to get through this What the Phone line, guys, if you don't shut.
All right, let's go to the next caller on What the Phone line.
Shut the phone up.
Coaches should forfeit their salaries for the sorry-ass play tonight against University of Kentucky.
Ooh, wow! They have families to feed.
Yeah,
they have mortgages.
Yeah,
you know how big Muschamp's mortgage is.
Would not appreciate.
You know how much he's paying for that $4 million. What is that pro? What would a margin? Let's say he's probably getting 2.5% on 4 point something mil. What's the monthly payment?
I couldn't tell you.
No, I don't. I think the school probably makes that payment for him.
But
I don't think so.
They
didn't give him the house.
All right,
let's go to the next.
Yeah.
All right, back to the What the Phone line.
If Sean Elliott is an offensive line coach, I am a damn brain surgeon, and I would like to operate on him. Have a good night. Bye.
Interesting.
He could have been your head coach.
That one might be my favorite. He was our head coach.
I mean, permanent.
Yeah.
Scalpel.
I don't know. It's Sean. Let's go to the next one. What the Phone line?
Offense sucks ass, and we have 2 first downs in 4 drives against the worst defense in the country. I mean, that's terrible. Our defense is looking good, but us.
Wow, that was
that was before the game was even over. He was only halfway drunk at that point.
But then again,
that's like 6, 7 beers.
But then again,
tops.
as I said before, you always have to ask the proper questions, not look for answers. If you're simplifying the offense for your freshman quarterback, that also tells me you're simplifying the job of the opposition's defensive coordinator to break down your plays and formations. So a lot of times I've seen defenses early in this season on pre-snap after the Vanderbilt game moving into position because they've already taught, wait a minute, they're in this formation 60 or 70% of the time, they're going to throw out of it, and here they come.
Yeah. One thing we're seeing, too, about McElwain, I mean, tremendous athlete, but he doesn't have burner speed. He can run, but he's not going to outrun too many people. He can run the option if they blocked it well and given him some space. Be right back.
Well.
I think our local high school team could have played better against Kentucky tonight. The defense was sorry. T-Rob needs to go back and teach how to tackle. Coaches should forfeit their salaries for the sorry-ass play tonight against the University of Kentucky.
Yeah, this is Drew from Florence, and I believe that all of Gamecock Nation should demand that Muschamp never, ever play Brandon McElwain again, ever, unless there is no other option in quarterback. He is horrendous in almost every aspect of the game, and the kid is clearly not a Power 5 quarterback and never will be.
If Sean is an coach, I am a damn brain surgeon, and I would like to operate on him. Have a good night. Bye.
Offense sucks ass, and we had 2 first downs in 4 drives against the worst defense in the country. I mean, that's terrible. Our defense is looking good, but I mean, us.
Okay, we're back. Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network from downtown Columbia Main Streets. Sports Talk is your sports talk show. Carolina from the coast to the mountains and all points in between and beyond. Coming up, Deshaun Watson talks about getting ready for Louisville in just a moment. We want to remind you that whether you are a Gamecock fan or a Clemson fan, or a fan of another great school in our state, everyone can agree on Founders Federal Credit Union. They have a convenient location at the Russell House at USC, a new location on Highway 93 in Clemson. That's now open. And Founders, of course, a sure fan favorite. Visit relaxjoinfounders.com to see if you qualify for membership. Founders Federal Credit Union, federally insured by NCUA. Okay, Clemson getting ready for Louisville, the big showdown, big top 5 showdown. This game's going to go a long way towards determining who wins the Atlantic Division and who ultimately gets a spot in the playoffs. Things can happen, of course, but when you look at Clemson's schedule and based on the other teams they have left to play, of course, Wake Forest is undefeated, but it's still Wake Forest.
Mm-hmm.
Pittsburgh could be a little dicey,
Yes.
but they're coming to Clemson. NC State's coming to Clemson. Syracuse is coming to Clemson, for what that's worth. And South Carolina's coming to Clemson.
I'm sure they're nervous about that one.
There you go.
Slowing
K-Mac,
down
always slamming the
juggernaut.
Gamecocks.
That juggernaut.
So get past this one, but of course they still have to go down to Florida State in a few weeks. But this is this has all the markings of one of those 8 o'clock on ABC. Boy, ABC, you know what they're going to do? They're going to have cameras all over the place. They're going to show you the ride from the locker room on the buses. They're going to show you Dabo in the locker room giving his pregame speech. They're going to show you Bobby Petrino's Harley Davidson.
I don't know about that.
Probably anyway.
They'll have Dabo wear the body camera.
They're gonna, 8 o'clock game at Clemson. This is a recruiting bonanza for the Tigers. They're going to have many of their top targets who are uncommitted in this class and future classes. They're going to be in. Place is going to be packed. Weather, I think, is supposed to be pretty good. So it's going to be a showcase event, and it's going to showcase 2 of the top players in the country. We all knew going in Deshaun Watson was going to be that player. He really hasn't played up to the expectations, but maybe the expectations were too high. I don't know. I think we expected him to be perfect, and he hasn't been perfect yet. But he was better throwing the ball. He was more precise throwing the ball against Georgia Tech. This would be a game where he wants to cut loose and show all his weaponry. And then you've got Lamar Jackson now, who is just on fire. Everything coming off his hands is turning into a touchdown, or off his feet. He's been practically unstoppable, but he hasn't faced a defense yet, probably like he's going to see against Clemson, I would think. Florida State, obviously, with what we've seen from them recently, not in the same league as Clemson's defense right now. So this will be a big test. Today, Deshaun met with the media up at Clemson to talk about this big battle ahead, everything that's on the line for the Tigers facing Louisville. And, of course, he hasn't forgotten that they're coming off a pretty nice road win at Georgia Tech.
We had success, especially Thursday night. At that place it's hard to do. So, but, nothing there. We just didn't take advantage of the plays to, blow games away. The first year I got hurt, so I couldn't finish the game. So, of course, I didn't have, success because I didn't get to play. Last year we won, so that's all that matters. But, at the end of the day, we just got to do what we do and beat Clemson.
I think you've said several times you embrace kind of the Heisman talk. Do you feel like this is a big stage to make it safe?
I guess so. I just do what I do and play my game and do what I do to win. And, I can't control what people think about the Heisman. That's out my league. Like I said before, I can't go out there and say I'm the Heisman winner. I don't control that. You have voters that people think and what they feel like, who deserve that, award. And, I really can't control that. No one's going to win the Heisman in week 5. You got to, got the year and be consistent. So, and Derrick Henry proved that last year. People didn't talk about him until like week 7. And, he ended up winning the Heisman. So, at the end of the day, we can only control what we can control and perform and do what we do on Saturdays. It was pretty solid. We started off fast. And then, third quarter, Georgia Tech held it for 10, 11 minutes. Only had 2 possessions. And then in the fourth quarter, we did the, seal out the game and get out there with a win. And, it was pretty solid performance, but there's always still room for improvement.
What did that first half particularly do for your confidence?
We're a confidence football team regardless. And so, we know what we can do. And that's the type of, ball we need to start playing, 60 minutes. And once we do that, it's going to be hard to stop us.
Still gets out that fast start every week, it looks like. For you guys, how important is it to you to kind of do what you did against Georgia Tech and kind of
come out that same intensity, knowing that that's the way they've been playing?
There's always, times for, things like that. But, we always stress, starting off fast, jumping up on teams, and each possession, we want to end on a kick, regardless if it's a punt, field goal, or a touchdown for an extra point. We always want to, start fast, get points on the board each and every time we touch the ball. And so it's no different for us. We just do what we got to do.
Have you seen out of that Louisville defense on film that makes them so effective with that push in the pocket?
I have a great, pretty good front seven. They're very active, very aggressive, and they just, whatever their scheme is, they're trying to perfect that craft and playing their keys.
How different is this compared to what you faced last year?
I guess all those guys been in the system before, so they know what they're doing, and they have experience in doing that, the things that the coach wanted them, to do each and every week, and that's probably pretty much it.
Yeah, is it fair?
All right, some Deshaun Watson for you. We'll have more tomorrow, a Talking Tuesday. We'll hear from Dabo, and, of course, we'll hear from Will Muschamp at South Carolina. Now recruiting for you. Let's begin on the football side of things. 2018, these are all 2018 updates. Defensive back Trey Douglas of McDonough, Georgia, said Clemson and USC both showing interest. Also hearing from Virginia Tech, Tennessee, Ohio State, Florida, and Penn State. Running back Lynn J. Dixon of Butler, Georgia. That should be Lynn J. With a hyphen there between the Lynn and the J. Clemson's been showing solid interest in him at this point. Also hearing from Tennessee, Georgia, Georgia Tech, and Florida. Linebacker Braylon Fisher of Dallas, Georgia, camped at Clemson last summer. I can say last summer now, right? Because we're in the fall.
Mm-hmm.
Summer's behind us. And he has the Tigers at the top of his list of schools showing interest. He was impressed with the camp. He felt Venables was a coach that he could play for. He also likes Duke, and he's been there. Defensive lineman Kalesia Brown of Saluda. Early offers from USC and East Carolina, plus hearing from Wake, Notre Dame, Virginia Tech, Navy, Florida, North Carolina, Penn State, Appalachian, and Coastal. Receiver DeMarcus Gregory of Burns. Early offers from USC, NC State, North Carolina, and Wake. Hears from USC and Clemson every day. Also hearing from Georgia, Florida, Virginia Tech, Penn State, and Florida State. And defensive end Xavier Thomas of Wilson confirmed last night he will be at Clemson Saturday for the Louisville game. In basketball, Clemson missed out on a top target when 6'9" Ejike Obina of Nigeria and Ashburn, Virginia, committed to Vanderbilt while on his official visit there. He said it was tough to call Clemson and tell them that he wasn't coming there because Clemson had been recruiting him for a long, long time. But he said he had a lot of good options in front of him, including Clemson, and just felt like Vandy was the best spot for him. 6'10" Brandon Huffman of Raleigh committed to North Carolina. He drew USC and Clemson interest. And in baseball, 2018 infielder Jacob English, brother of former USC outfielder Tanner English, committed to the Gamecocks last night. Available online all the time on our website, SportsTalkSC.com. David Shelton coming up after the break here on Sports Talk. Okay, we're back. Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. David Shelton coming up in just a moment. A source has told the Baton Rouge Advocate Les Miles' buyout, $9.6 million.
I'll take it.
Over 6 years. It would be mitigated if he gets another job. Yeah, it would go down if he gets another job. By the way, another report says it was Ed Orgeron who fired the offensive coordinator and not LSU. Kind of like what Dabo did when he took over. First thing he did was fire the offensive coordinator and start to make some changes. Bruce Feldman names the top candidates for the LSU coaching job.
Herman.
Let's see here. Where is it here? Of course, I guess the obvious ones are in there. Let's see. He appeared on to discuss. Yeah, he mentions Tom Herman. Mm-hmm. He mentions Jimbo Fisher. Okay. Yep. Tom Herman is an interesting guy. He's a California guy. Herman and okay, he didn't say anything new there. Thought maybe there might be something new in there. Let's go to David Shelton, High School Sports Report, Charleston Post and Courier. Who are your top three for the LSU job?
Kevin McCrary, Tom Hayes, and Phil Kornbluth.
Well, wow.
Well,
you know what? I'm going to remove my name from consideration right now. I'm really happy to be considered, but I'm going to pull my name out.
I just want to buy out.
Yeah,
that's what I always do.
Yeah, I wish somebody paid me $9 million to go away.
If that guy ever coaches again, then I'm crazy. Because if they paid me $9 million to not coach, I'll be darned if I would coach.
Heck of a gig. Heck of a Friday night. What'd you take away from what we saw this past Friday night? What are the things to note?
Well, I think Northwestern pounding Gaffney the way they did was quite a story. I'm not so surprised they won, but to win 46-2, I think it was that's a statement in both ways. And West Side and then blowing it in the fourth quarter. I think Spartanburg has shown the ability to score in the fourth quarter. They almost came back and beat Northwestern. They came back and beat Somerville. They came back and beat West Side. So, those are the ones that stand out. I didn't see any major. Southside Christian getting beat in 2A was by Blacksburg was kind of an upset, but Blacksburg's a pretty good team too. So, I tell you what I did notice is how many teams had a bye week last week.
Yeah.
Man, there was a lot of teams had bye weeks last week.
Especially in 4A. A lot of 4A teams were off.
Yeah, it's like they all got together and said, hey, let's don't play this week. And they didn't.
Who do you see around the state of the remaining unbeatens who are kind of coming out of nowhere? Maybe like a Cane Bay, undefeated at this point, Boiling Springs undefeated at this point, Clover. Who are some of those types you see? Maybe Barnwell's having a great year. They're unbeaten, rising up through their various classes and being teams that will stay at the top of the rankings as we get to region play.
Well, I think all of those teams you mentioned, as well as Ridgeview, they have some stumbling along the way, and it's so hard to win every single week. You have to bring your A game, and when you can't factor in injuries. You can't factor in you just have a bad night. You fumble the ball 3 times, or Cane Bay's offense with that double wing Georgia Tech style offense. They have a propensity to put it on the ground a little bit, and they could do that against a team like Hilton Head who can score. Barnwell is in a very tough conference with Allendale, Calhoun County, and Bamberg Earhart. So can they run that gauntlet? That's going to be very tough. Hartsville and Abbeville play Friday night at Newberry College in a non-region game. Both those are undefeated, and obviously one of them's going to lose.
Yeah.
I think it's really hard to go undefeated. Boiling Springs, they're really good, but look who they have to go through in that region. So it's so hard to go undefeated. It's so hard to predict. I would guess if they stayed healthy and didn't get hurt and played the way they've played up to now, I think Cane Bay has a chance to go undefeated in the regular season. They're probably a tad better than everybody else in that region, though Hilton Head, they got 2 Shrine Bowl guys, so obviously they've got some guys that can run. Berkeley's got a Shrine Bowl quarterback, so they obviously can do some things offensively. But it's just so hard for 16, 17-year-olds to bring it every single night. That's why when a team goes undefeated to a regular season and playoffs and wins a state championship, to me, that's a pretty big deal. I don't care how much talent you got. You still got to bring it 15 straight weeks, and that's tough.
Got some good games. I'm looking ahead to next week. I see North Myrtle Beach going to play Myrtle Beach. I see South Point's going to play Ridgeview. I'm just scanning here through the schedule. Looks like, I say next week, this coming Friday, we've got some very good matchups.
Yeah. I think those two are two of the top ones. I think that the one I mentioned, Hartsville playing Abbeville at Newberry College on Friday night is bringing 2, storied programs that have won a lot of games over the years. And they're just so this year they play for the first time and they're both undefeated. I think Hartsville's ranked 2nd or 3rd in 4A and Abbeville's number 1 in 2A. I look for that just to be a knockdown, drag out. That's going to be a great game. I'm glad they're playing it. I'm glad teams like that are starting to look at each other and say, you know what, we don't have a point system anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Let's have some let's develop some rivalries. Let's see if a Gaffney and a Dillon will hook up at some point.
Yeah. Let's have some fun out there.
How people would show up at that game?
Yeah, really. That'd be a great gate. Let me ask you this. On the downside, why has Goose Creek fallen off the cliff? They're 0-5, and they're just, a couple years removed from being the best team in the state. And are you a little surprised at Irmo and their struggles continuing? They're 1-5.
When you talk about Goose Creek, they're really struggling on the offensive line, and I think that I don't even know who their offensive line coach is, and I'm not saying that he is a bad coach, but when they were really rolling, they had Buddy King as their offensive line coach, and he's no longer there, and they've had some coaching turnover. When Chuck got their panties in a wad and said, I'm moving on. So they've had some coaching changes, and their offensive line just isn't getting it done. They're not football. They're trying.
Mm-hmm.
They're running basically the same offense. They're just not having success, and they don't have the personnel that can just spread it out and throw it all over the field. So it's ended up costing them some games. And the other team that you mentioned, Irmo, they're just running out of athletes. I mean, they don't have a lot of great athletes. I got a chance to see a little bit of a video of them, and they've got a good quarterback, and they've got some good players. Just don't have enough of them, and people that they're pretty dang good. They're playing a pretty good schedule, but it's kind of they're just kind of running low on athletes. They got 7 or 8 pretty good players, but they don't have a lot of depth. And they score some points, but they give up some points. And then on a night where they don't score a lot of points, their defense plays pretty well. And it's just that people are going to go through this. And when you look at Irmo, they're that community that doesn't really grow. I mean, it's a lot of the people that live in Irmo have lived in Irmo a long time, and people that move to the Midlands don't necessarily move to Irmo. They move to Lexington or Chapin, out that way, maybe the Dutch Fork side. They're just not moving into the Irmo district, and so you're kind of faced with what you got.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Reggie Kennedy's a good football coach.
Sure.
He's won everywhere he's been.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to have some Jimmies and Joes, especially on the high school level.
All right, in 40 seconds, give me your take on the Shrine Bowl team.
It is what it is. Every year there's guys left off, and every year there's guys taken that you maybe scratch your head at. But you know what? It's an all-star game, and they do what they do. They try to do the best they can and pick players they feel will fit in their system, especially offensively, because defensively you're kind of limited. So it is what it is. I think North Carolina's probably got the better talent. I like the coaching staff for the South Carolina team, so we'll see what happens.
Okay, David, have a great week. We'll talk to you Friday.
Short drop, climbs the pocket. Fastball down the left sideline. Ted Ginn Jr. reaches out, spares it, and he's touchdown at our line.
That's one of the best throws I've seen.
Again, mug up in the A gap. Big 15-10, coast into the end zone, a touchdown. The left in the clear. He leaves punt, substandard. Shortish. Andy punt, substandard. Shortish punt. Sherrill's at the 48. Andy Lee's punt, substandard. Shortish punt. Sherrill's at the 48. Cuts to the left in the clear. Down the left sideline. 35 to the 30, the 25, 20, 15, 10. Coast into the end zone. A touchdown.
All right, Mick. I'm not happy with you people today. I'm not happy.
Yeah, I know. It could have helped Green Bay, Corn. Sorry about that.
I know. I'm listening to you guys as I'm driving back from Lexington, and you're up. A nice early lead. I said, daggone, the Panthers are just going to stroll here. What happened?
Well, it's a good question. We've talked to Coach Rivera. We've gone back and looked at the tape, all three phases, break it down. And I think it's more complex than just one thing. 8 sacks, got one-dimensional. They knew we had to throw it. Ears pinned back, et cetera. You know how that goes. Cam Newton possibly holding on to the ball a beat or two too long. The mysterious disappearance of Kelvin Benjamin. Mm-hmm. I halfway expected to see his picture on the sides of some milk cartons today because he was not there for the game in large measure. A couple mistakes with some penalties. Minnesota's good. And then I had a coach text me last night, Corn, who said, you just witnessed what happens when a football team spends the entire week talking about things other than football.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You think everything happening around Charlotte, or this coach thinks everything happening around Charlotte affected the focus of the team going in?
No, he won't say that and can't. But I just, it makes me wonder because – would have been good to have a road game this week, or good, of course, for this whole deal not to have happened, obviously. But, the Panthers had so much attention and so many questions about social unrest and social issues and things that it was bound to, and I'm sure the team discussed it a lot themselves. So, perhaps the crowd was not quite as into it. There were tickets for sale for this game. Normally that's not the case. So it was just an odd weekend in Charlotte and an odd Sunday at Bank of America Stadium.
Do you think, excuse me, and I know it's still early, so nobody ever saying anything like that, but the fact is that the loser of the Super Bowl, history says they have a hard time just making the playoffs the next year. I mean, are the Panthers falling prey to that?
No, I don't think there's any science behind that at all. I think it's hard to get to the playoffs because it's hard to get there, and it's hard to get to the Super Bowl because it's just hard to get there. NFL teams are so even, and the league's entire DNA is structured from how draft order is determined to how the NFL scheduling computer works. It's all set up to help teams go from worst to first. So, no, I don't think the Panthers have fallen victim to any press clippings. I don't think we're any juggernaut. But I do think that now the pressure shifts to Atlanta. If you don't win that game, now you're 0-1 in the division and 1-3 at the quarter post with a whole different set of challenges and questions than you faced at any time in August or September.
Well, the bell cows of that defense, you look at Luke Kuechly and Thomas Davis, who went out for a while, but it looks like he got some Magic laying on of hands on the sideline. How is his condition?
Everybody's okay. Good question about the injuries because there were some guys that got dinged up. Everybody's okay. The only lingering thing is the Vernon Butler high ankle sprain. Miraculously, soldier on. Thomas Davis, a lot of collective holding of breaths when the great TD looked like he had tweaked his knee, but he came back and played. So I think everybody will be okay this week with the possible exception of Butler.
All right, Mick, I know that you'll have an interesting coaches show coming up around the Carolinas. It's always fun after a loss, I know. Enjoy that, and we'll catch you next week.
Sounds good, Corn. Appreciate you guys.
You got it, man. Thank you. The voice of the Panthers, the stick, Mick Mixon, with us here on Sports Talk. Looking ahead to Clemson and Louisville, of course, tomorrow is a Talking Tuesday. I will be up at Clemson. K-Mac will be over at USC. Pro will be taking a nap, getting ready for the show.
Oh, no, I won't be taking a nap.
No napping? No nap tomorrow? You don't get a nap in the afternoon?
No.
You do get a nap in before the show, don't you?
No, not with this new schedule.
Oh, okay. I wanted to bring this up in looking at Louisville, not to put any fear in any Tiger fans anywhere.
Oh, fear.
But some of their national numbers, number one in the country in fourth down conversions, number one in the country in first down offense. Just looking at their high marks here. Number 10 in passing offense at 364 yards a game. Number 16 against the pass in terms of yards, 156 per game. They play good defense. They're just not offense. They play good defense. Rushing offense, they're number 3 in the country at 318 yards per game. Number 1 in scoring offense at 63.5. I can't ever recall a team visiting Clemson 3 games into the season. What are we, 3 games into the season? 4 games in?
Boy.
I mean, I'm talking about more than one game, averaging 63 points coming in to Death Valley. I can't recall that. Maybe it's happened. Let's see. Number 1 in scoring offense. Number 2 in tackles for loss allowed in terms of the fewest. Team passing efficiency, number 7. Number 1 in total offense at 682 yards per game. You get my drift here about how good these guys are?
It's hard to sack a ghost. And he's like a ghost when he has that ball in the backfield. We always said Bobby Petrino, he introduced Arkansas to the forward pass, and he's got a tremendous offensive mind for the passing game. So you get him a guy who has legs and can throw, that is a combustible combination.
Yeah. You know, I know he put out a statement today, Petrino did, saying, I'm extremely happy here in Louisville. I've got no interest in any other jobs, but blah, 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 blah. We've heard that from him how many times? And, he is a genius coach. There is no question about it. And he puts together an excellent staff.
That passing game, for the passing game.
He's a genius offensive coach.
Passing game.
Everywhere he's been.
Passing game genius.
Yeah.
Do you know what Steve Spurrier said when somebody called him an offensive genius?
What did he say?
He said, don't call me an offensive genius. Don't call me a genius. Call me a guru.
Yeah, that too. Anyway, I'm just thinking about, LSU sliding in, the back door there while everybody's talking Jimbo Fisher and Tom Herman. And talking to Petrino, But I would imagine if I'm the people at LSU and I want to play, my feeling is that our offense had grown stale under Les Miles, and I wanted to get the hottest thing out there, it would be Tom Herman. And this would probably be a job that he would not back away from, unlike South Carolina.
Now here's the interesting conundrum here. It probably won't happen. But suppose Southern California decided, we made a mistake. Here's LSU. Here's Southern California. Now, Tom Herman has been in the Midwest a long time, but he's a California guy.
Mm-hmm.
Which job do you take?
When is it's a good question. He'd probably take Southern Cal. When is Lane Kiffin going to get another shot?
Soon. not soon enough to land at LSU.
Is he going to bring the Nick Tatum with him? I doubt it.
I hope LSU makes that mistake.
See, they're citing.
Let them bring that dumpster fire over there to Baton Rouge.
No, that's what people are citing. The national pundits are saying, see, Nick Saban changed. He went and brought in Kiffin to run his offense. It's made all the difference. And they said that Miles wouldn't change. He was too stubborn. He stuck to his ways on offense. He brought in Cameron to be his offensive coordinator. It didn't work. To everybody's satisfaction. They relied on Leonard Fournette. They let the quarterback situation erode, and that's why they fired him. And they're saying he should have brought in somebody to develop their offense like Kiffin has at Alabama. Okay, that'll do it. Thank you for being with us. Thanks to Carcinova and to Jarmart and everybody here. Have a great night. Talking Tuesday tomorrow, and we'll see you then. Talking the Corn's going to be doing because the voice is starting to slide. And the headache is starting to build.
Keel over.
I could be the next one.
You need to release your full medical.
Famous people go in threes. We've had 2 of them. World-renowned famous people go in threes.